would come down on the side of the hackers. And can you just imagine that for a second? I'm the German rail system. I don't want to sue hackers because I think the public won't like me anymore. And that's cool, right? So this is the kind of difference that public opinion changes.
That happened and got cut down really quickly by the state. So we don't have any big problems with the police and things being public. So after we publish something in Datenschleuder, usually the police steps by and says hello. And there are reasons for that. We might explain it later.
Okay, so public image is a really huge thing. Another example, maybe some of you have heard about Blinken Lights. Blinken Lights, yeah. So for those of you who don't know, there was a building in Berlin which had very square windows, and the CCC installed lights behind each of the windows and used the entire building in the middle of a very prominent square in Berlin as a monitor. And you could write programs or use this fancy GUI that they made to send your messages across the building. This was the event of the millennium. This was the 2000 Berlin Millennium event.
It was the official Berlin party of the year 2000 was in front of this display on the so-called Alexanderplatz, which is a very famous place in Germany. The countdown for 2000 was on that building, and there are really many funny things, like you could play Pong on the building. Right,
with your cell phone. You could dial a number and then use your keys to play Pong on the building. I have a few points about this. The first is that the city of Berlin wanted to use it for their display. They paid them to do this. I went to Berlin for the very first time for a 21c3. I went into a hotel where I was staying across the street from this building, talked to some random people from Britain because there was some mix-up with the room, and they said, "What are you doing here?" And I said, "I'm here for the CCC Congress." And they said, "Oh, the thing with Blinken Lights and the Pong in the building." Like, they're known, right? Like, this organization is in the media. It's in the public. It's constantly something that doesn't have to be, skirted around or said differently in the media or whatever, and it's loved by the public.
Blinken Lights had another project after that. They moved on to France. We were called by some people who had been in an art week in France, and we set up the Blinken Lights project after that in the National Library of France, which you can imagine is not so easy to get.
We are working very hard on bringing a similar kind of project to New York City. So if anybody's interested in helping out on a project like that, if you have funding or friends who have buildings in New York or anything like that, just talk to me afterwards. Okay, so we're going to briefly go over the rest of these differences that we think we have. Right, yeah. Why don't you just talk about that?
Yeah.
Obviously, we don't have any connections to our politicians, right? Like, we may write letters to our senators and whatnot, but we don't have regular meetings with them. In fact, I think if one of us went to lunch with a senator and it got to the media, it would probably be a bad thing for the senator, right? So this is in contrast.
Yeah, if you Google CCC and lobby, you'll find up the CCC as an official lobbying group for the German parliament. So if there's any kind of law changement and new laws, recording the electronic stuff we play around with, we get informed. We don't have to inform ourselves. And for example, we had Mr. Taus, which is the speaker of the German government for new electronic media, as keynote speaker for the last conference on the 22C3. And those people don't have a problem showing up there with us and shaking hands on the conference and taking pictures.
A member of the CCC is an ICANN director.
Has been.
Yeah,
that was easy. In Europe, we elected our ICANN directors by ourselves, and the only thing you need to vote was an email address. So that's easy.
A movie was made in Germany about hackers, and it was screened at the CCC conference because they wanted the CCC's approval of the movie. before it went to the public.
Which is the media thing they want to have. Just
Could you imagine if they did that with us, with hackers? Like, right? Well, okay, not all of us. A few of our media icons, maybe. Or swordfish. Did anybody talk to you about swordfish? Right? Okay. One of the next big things is how we bring in our next generation of hackers and how they bring in their next generation of hackers. This is different. For us, I don't really know how it works. Like, I think for girls, they just date people, and that's how they get in. That's how I got in. But for the rest of you, I don't know. Maybe you can tell me. Maybe this is a little part of audience participation. I think it's mostly the magazine. Am I wrong? Does anybody have a...
You're wrong.
Okay, tell me your story.
Personally, I think 2600 is a rag.
Well, of course, but how did you get in? How did you become part of the hacker culture that brings you here today?
Well, I started off on BBSs back in the late 80s, early 90s.
All right, well, for people who are not as old as you. Yeah?
I got started when I saw that my school stored its typing program when we were learning fingering and that.
Okay, yeah, that's cool, but how did you meet other hackers for the first time? Not how did you get into hacking, but...
I changed the typing program so we had to type up scene phrases, and another kid that was already part of the scene came up and was like...
There we go, all right. So we have word of mouth, right? We have meeting friends and things that you're doing with hacking, and we have the magazine. Do you have anything else? How you come into the hacker culture? Really?
Yeah.
That's amazing. I wonder if those classified ads in 2600 have gotten any letters. Anybody else? No?
IRC.
Oh, God. Okay, anyway, so how do you bring in your next generation?
Well, we have all the magazine, we have the usual contact you have. Many people come to the first time to the Congress, read it on a computer magazine, but the main thing what we changed is that we have a project called U23, where we want to get all the people under the age of 23. And then they have to do some things. For the last thing was, you might see it at the Hope, was the FNOT light, which is a small thing to assemble, which can produce every RGB color. And for example, to enlighten a room.
So it's 3 circuit boards, 27 LEDs, serial interface. And so they would bring in these kids that they would meet and advertise in universities and schools, have them do this contest to build these things, and the ones who were really into it would become the next generation.
The project started in Cologne, and they really go to the schools and help the computer science teachers to be lazy by let them talk and let them do the stuff. They have something for you, and I just can sit in the corner and read my things and do something else. And this, I think, not U23 is in the 3rd round or in the 4th round at the moment. We have some programming events. We have some robot build-up experiments before, so it's a different thing every time. And mainly the thing is to get those people in and to get the people something to do. Not to sit around and ask every random people showing up, can you show me how to become a hacker? We, in this case, prefer them to do something, and when they build up their FNOT light by themselves and discover they got a serial interface or USB interface, whatever you build it, and they can program it and do those stuff, well, this is usually the easier thing to get them in contact with the scene and to become a hacker at least a bit.
Okay, so...
It is not making you a hacker. Don't say you will build this FNOT light and you're a hacker after that. But it's helping the people to get into the scene and to get in contact and to feel a bit of what those people think.
All right, so to segue into our conclusions, the last difference that we want to talk about is, well, it seems like we're having a big happy Germany fest up here, right? Like, wow, Germany's so cool. Like, they're so much better than us at everything. Like their projects and their people, and they talk to the media, and they have all this radio show. and everything.
This is much better.
They definitely have better beer that's not contest.
West Coast, baby.
So that's not exactly the case, and here's why. I think that here in America we have a significantly different physical, political climate to deal with than they have in Germany. We have many more challenges to face as if we want to be hackers, if we want to be part of the hacker community, than they do. For them, they listen to the radio, or they go to some project, or they do whatever, and it's all sunshine and roses, right? Like, they get to be part of this cool thing, they get to do this cool stuff, and when they're done, they get to get this cool job and have all this like fancy cred, right? For us, I mean, the last time I visited my family, and this is me, okay, I'm a girl, I just talk, right? I don't know how to make a Finord light, right? I was called a criminal by my entire family 3 minutes after entering their home the last time I saw them, because I share music, okay? This is a political climate that we have. I share legal music with my friends. Backups, okay? So the things that we have to face to be in the scene and to do stuff for it is much greater. To go to these cons, we have to travel to places like Cleveland. Like Brooklyn is awesome. Represent. The political climate is very bad. When we do things, we have very serious political consequences. We get raided. Some of us go to jail. Like fired. Yes, we stop having family and friends. Like there's all kinds of consequences for us who do this. So I think that the people who are here, and the people who are still coming to these events, and the people who are doing their things in their communities are the heroes, because we have a whole lot to face, and you guys are doing it anyway. So we are doing cool things in America. We really are. Like the compositions that we have, the cons that we throw, and the projects that the groups that we have do. I don't know if any of you saw the Wi-Fi gun by the Shmoo group at DEF CON last year. I don't know if any of you saw the Anything But Ethernet contest here last year with the Lego printer and the guy with the flags, right? Like, we have cool projects here, and people are doing things here, and we don't have the infrastructure that they do, but this allows us some other things.
Yeah. Well, maybe ours is, in that point of view, a bit different, because as already said, we have rooms where you can gather. In Berlin, for example, we have, I think some of them, you have been at the CCCB. This is a room nearly open 24/7 with computers of, well, at least some thousand, most of them old used computers standing around there, people you can meet, and it's a trustful atmosphere. You can just drop your laptop there, come back 2 days later, he will be there. And it's just as we get more the good people instead of, nobody would think of the CCC as the criminals, besides maybe the boss of the German Rail now. But this gives just, then you have different persons, then you have so many possibilities. If you have a place to meet every day, and there are people who really come there every day after work, every day after university, every day after school, where they can meet, they can change ideas.
Every day instead of school, like me,
Yeah,
when I was there. Anyway.
And it's totally different. You don't have a problem, as already said. I write all the things I did with the CCC in my resume if I apply for a job. And this is the reason to get a job. Now, at university, usually you have some students running the minor computers and that stuff. I think this is the same over here. If you have some students over here. And in our computer science department of the Technical University of Darmstadt, when they need a new administrator, we'll get informed 2 weeks in advance. And if we have some people who want to have a job, usually this never gets printed up somewhere.